Hi, my name is Alexandra, and I'm doing this series of conversations with people who practice some sort of ancestral work and family constellations as well. Today, I welcome you to the conversation with Sian Palmer, who is the movement and drama therapist, founder of Expressive movement, and co-founder of Ancestral Connections. Welcome, Sian.
Thank you, Alex.
Great. So I'm just going to go straight into it. And my first questions to everyone in the series is, what are ancestors for you, the way you understand this, the way you work with this?
So for me, ancestors are the ones who came before. So when we're looking at our own biological lineage, that means our biological ancestors, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, the ones who lived and who were able to survive and pass life down to us. And so we can look at it on the micro in terms of our own personal biological genealogy, and then we can also expand that further to recognize that actually, if we go far back enough, we all share the same ancestors. And we can even expand that further to include animal life and plant life and knowledge lineages as well. So whatever is informing what is living now, whatever came before that is informing what is living now, one could see as an ancestor. So the way that I work with these ancestral connections with my co-founder Tanya Myberg is we look to the body as the tool of connection and of being in conversation. And so I understand it that we can work both somatically with what we're sensing in the body, because our ancestors are alive within us, within our DNA, within our genetic makeup, and we can actually tap into particular qualities or strengths that are connected to our ancestral lineages. And that we can also work projectively. So I work both somatically, kinesthetically, and also with sensing, dreaming, envisioning, imagining the ancestors with us so that we can be in conversation in this way. So a kind of a projective image or a somatic experience. And I do that through the lens of movement and of embodiment.
Thank you, Sian. Can you say a little bit more about how is the body connected to ancestors? So in the way you look at ancestors, are they something of the past, something that we're connecting to in the past, or are they a living thing? And how is it that the body is connected with them? Something that is not embodied and we are embodied. Say a little bit more about this, please.
So our ancestors were real people who lived and died, who loved, who made their way through, who survived. And so they're both of the past and they are within us, because through their survival we exist and we hold them in our systems. So it is possible to connect, in my experience, it's possible to connect with our ancestors in the here and now through bringing our attention, bringing our consciousness into our bodies through movement. So as we access and activate breath and movement, so we bring our minds into the presence, and then we're really able to feel into and connect into what is living in us now, which is our ancestral connection, which is our ancestral heritage. And when we meditate in this way, we can start to open up to this awareness, and we can start to recognize the resources, the support, and our interdependence in the here and now.
So you mentioned that we can get access through our body, through dropping deeper and meditating, to something that is in us, but also is of them, which touches a little bit on the next question I was going to ask, which is, why would one want to connect with them? Why would anyone want to do ancestral work, especially in that way, through the body? So yeah, why?
So in my experience, when we open up to recognizing our roots and deepening our sense of belonging to this human community and beyond that, we can really access the life force. Because we are the descendants of ones who survived, we hold within us incredible strengths and resilience. And there are so many ancestors, and there are so many qualities and strengths and skills and ways of being that we can begin to, or we can continue to foster within ourselves when we open up to this myriad of connections. So we can both further root and deepen our connection with a particular character trait, with a particular strength, with a particular way of being that we are familiar with. And we can also start to open up to new ways of being in the world, ways of relating to ourselves, to one another, and we can open up our creativity through these connections. So it's both the memory of what is and also remembering and reconfiguring, so we can actually reorientate ourselves and integrate these parts of our system maybe that we were previously not conscious of.
Thank you. This sounds incredible. What is the role of the family constellations in the work that you do as Ancestral Connections?
So family constellations is one of the lineages of Ancestral Connections, and as is the movement modality, as is the drama and movement therapy, one of these strands. And what Tanya and I recognized was that for us, it was really important to connect with the embodied piece of the work and to really deepen our connection to the body as the root of the knowledge and the information that we can gather through the constellations work. So we bring in constellations and movement, and they're interdependent and interconnected. And so we work both with representing within the Ancestral Connections work. We work with both the kind of more traditional asking for representatives and constellating in that way. And we also recognize that the constellations are happening within us as we are moving. So we work with this interplay between the embodiment and the projection and weave it in that kind of a way.
Thank you. I'm curious, from the point of view of somebody who's never done ancestral work, or maybe never even thought about it, never heard about it, could you share something very simple that somebody might start doing to begin this journey, you know? And maybe it could be something to do with the body, since this is what you are focusing on. So something simple that somebody might do to start connecting with ancestors in a more embodied way.
So something that springs to mind is just to take a moment to remember a grandparent, or maybe even a story about a great grandparent that offers you a feeling of connection and of belonging and of love. And to just notice how that lives in you as you remember it, as you breathe, as you feel. So you recognize how this connection is here and is available to you. And it's very simple. It's as simple as that. Just recalling that memory, maybe even recalling if you know what that person looked like, or imagining what that person looked like through the stories that were told. And just letting that essence of them be with you and allowing this connection to live with you in your body, in the here and now.
Thank you. That was beautiful. I was immediately connecting to a story with my great grandmother, and yeah, it feels like an expansion. It feels a little bit like confirmation of my belonging. Yeah,
Mm.
thank you. So we've talked about connecting with the ancestors through the body. So doing a little meditation to remember somebody, to feel the belonging to the family. What about people who know nothing about where they come from, or about anyone behind them? So people who've been adopted, or um, or there is just no information for whatever reason.
Well, we can start with what is known. So if you are adopted, if you don't have any knowledge of your family or biological lineage, maybe you can start with recognizing who your known ancestors are, your mentors, your guides, your elders, your old teachers or caregivers, and really including them as part of your ancestral support. And then when you have allowed yourself to really rest into that, then you can start to open up to the fact that actually you have biological parents and grandparents and great grandparents, and that they are living in you. And that part of who you are and how you are in the world is as a result of them. And then you can start to go on this journey, this incredibly exciting, supportive journey of recognizing these connections. So I would suggest continuing to establish the known and being curious about the unknown.
Thank you, Sean. As I sit with you, I have more and more questions popping up into my head. I think it's around the safety of doing this work. So especially if I know some of the really painful and traumatic experiences, my grandparents, great grandparents went through, how safe it is for me to lean into that, to lean into the past, where I know there has been trauma and loss and death and things like that. What do you think?
So the way that I practice and the way that I trust is that your resources need to always be 3 times stronger, at least, than the trauma. And so let's not underestimate the importance of support and resourcing. So who are those ancestors? Who are the elders that bring you strength, that give you strength? Who can you call on? And you go there and you allow yourself to lean into this first before you even think about looking towards the challenges, the struggles. It's so important that we recognize the survival in us and the strength in us, and then we can start to include the parts that are more painful, or a little bit more scary. But that's a very gentle, incremental process, because it's really a process of inclusion. So leaning into the support, leaning into the strength, really feeling it, letting it live in you, letting it breathe in you, allowing yourself to be full up, and then starting to look at the parts that need to be looked at from there is my suggestion.
Thank you. This is beautiful. And just for
Mm.
somebody who's never maybe thought about resources as such, as in consciously calling in resources into your life, or even being aware that there is such a thing. Say something more about this. How do I know what are my resources? What are, because you said a very important thing about having 3 times as more resources before you start any kind of um, healing work or intervention work, or connecting with the painful places. So how do I do that? What does it mean that I connect with my resources if I have no idea what that is?
So just notice when you feel grounded, when you feel strong, when you feel a sense of courage, And just notice what you might be connected to through that. So maybe even in this moment, recall a feeling of courage, a feeling of strength, a feeling of yes, I can do this. Yes, I can face this. And then you just track what you might be connected to. Right now, I feel connected to the ground. I feel my feet firmly on the ground. Oh, the ground is a resource. Or, oh, my physical body is a resource. When I go into this posture, I feel strong. Or when I stand and I look at this tree, I really feel a sense of connection. I feel connected to myself. I feel like I have my place in nature. These are the resources. So you allow your feelings to give you those cues. You allow your body to let you know. Your body knows. So all you need to do is just tune into it, ask the question, listen in, and it's really simple. Simple as that.
Perfect. That makes a lot of sense. I immediately connected to the earth and felt this is where I'm strong, and to the elements, to nature. Yes. Thank you. Could you maybe share a personal story around ancestral work that you've done in your life before, maybe as a practitioner, or maybe as a receiver of this work?
My relationship with my paternal grandmother is one that I hold very close to my heart. And I was dancing, and she was Dutch. She was of Dutch heritage. And it was around this time, a couple of years ago, that I was dancing, and in my imagination, up popped this beautiful bouquet of tulips. And I could see their colors. They were like sunset colors, reds to oranges to yellows. And we were invited to do a drawing. And so I made a drawing, and these words came: stay in love, stand in love. This is the dance of life. And my grandmother's name popped into my head, and I recognized that this message was coming through her, in fact. And a couple of weeks later, my aunt arrived at the door, and I'd just gone through quite a big life transition, and she was thinking of me, and she brought me some food, and she brought me a bunch of flowers, but not just any flowers. She brought me those exact tulips, and she handed them over to me, and she said, "These are from Gran." And it was just such a beautiful connection from the dreaming and the ancestral work into this real life moment that was just such a synchronous affirmation.
Beautiful, thank you. Can you say a bit more about how did you get into ancestral work? Why was it important for you to begin on this journey?
I have always been a family person. I've always found a lot of support and love and connection through having quite a big extended family. And I understand the importance of community and of the whole system. And so I recognized through my work in drama and movement therapy the importance of looking at the whole and looking at the parts of the whole, and found that family constellations just offered such a powerful framework of understanding and being able to work with the family system, with our inner parts, with community, and to really, you can go from the micro into the macro. So I just found this such a powerful lens through which to work, and it's really deepened my practice and my capacity to be able to see and flag those exclusions and what is needing to be included. So I found it to be a really useful map.
Thank you. So before we close, is there anything else that you would like to bring into this space today that needs to be said, that needs to be voiced?
I'd just like to recognize how important it is in this time, as in any other, that we are connected to our bodies, that we are connected to the resources that are living in us and from the ones who came before, and that through very simple remembering through small everyday rituals, we can just be open to these connections. And just here now, being with you, Alex, and having this conversation, I'm just feeling the relief and the care that comes from being real in human relationships, and using these platforms, using these methods, just to return to connecting and to allowing life to move and allowing creativity to happen. And for me, this is where it's at.
Thank you. And thank you for doing this conversation today. Thank you for making time for it and for sharing your wisdom and the way you work and the way your connection with the ancestors. Thank you so much, Sian.
Thank you, Alex. It was a pleasure.